Anyway, he said, Father, he said, let's go visit some people that were not able to come here in the rooms. I said, okay. So we went around, and he said, Father, before we go into this room, I want to tell you about this lady. Her name is Ruth. And he said, Ruth came to us about 5 years ago. He said, somebody just dumped her off. Never had any visitors, no letters, cards, never got a phone call. She was just lonely, and she was depressed. He said, Father, he said, she didn't even talk, never spoke. He said the medical people said there was no reason that they could find that she couldn't. She just didn't. That's how depressed she was. He said, well, Father, I decided I was going to get Ruth to talk. He said, I tried everything. And I knew he did. He said, I sang to her. I thought, well, that would make me talk instantaneously. Hadn't heard him sing earlier. He said, I danced with her. I blessed her. I laid hands upon her. I anointed her with oil. I gave her communion. I said, is she a Catholic, Francis? He said, I think she is now. He said, I'm pretty sure she is. He said, but nothing, Father, nothing. He said, then I made a decision. I decided I was going to love Ruth into talk. Well, I was almost afraid to ask because I had seen Francis in action. But curiosity got the better part of me, and I said, Francis, how did you do that? He said, well, Father, I pulled up the rocking chair right next to hers, and I rocked, and I prayed, same speed as her. Rocked, and I prayed, and I loved her with all my heart. He said, nothing about it. Next day I did it. All week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 3 months, 4 months. Father, I lost track of time. Every day, rock, nothing. She just rocked, staring at the wall. One day, I was rocking and praying and loving her, and she just stopped rocking. And she sat up straight. And she looked at me. She'd never looked at me before. And she grabbed my hand. And she said, you're so kind. You're so kind. And he said, Father, she hasn't stopped talking since. And we went into the room after he told me that little story. And it was one of these. She sees him, big smile comes over her face. She struggles out of her chair, hobbles towards him. He hobbles towards her. A lot of hobbling going on. And it's one of these. And I knew it happened every day. I knew it happened every day. Big smiles on both their faces. And that's when it hit me. This is what it's all about. This is Lent in action. This is this reading, these readings in action. This is the grain of wheat that languished as a bomb on the streets of Chicago until somebody ministered to him, brought Jesus to him, and he accepted and stepped into the light, was planted, and now is bearing in his old age much fruit. That's what it's all about. This is not only the gospel, this is not only Lent, this is Catholicism in action. This is what we're all called to do. And I learned so many things in that one instant. It doesn't matter how old we are. It doesn't matter how sick we are. It doesn't matter how smart we are. It doesn't matter how beautiful we are. It doesn't matter what race or nationality we are. It doesn't matter how wealthy we are. It doesn't matter what social class we belong to. There's only one thing that matters. Can we love somebody with the love of Christ? That's all that matters. Because I am convinced that Ruth would have died without experiencing love. The love of Jesus, were it not for Francis. Here it was, the old man who was a bum in Chicago, 100 years old, with a 5th grade education, being Jesus for the forgotten old lady that nobody loved until he came along. And so, I have a question for you. Simple. Important. Who is your Ruth? We all have one or more. Who in your life needs that kind of love? Someone does. My friends, don't let them down. They may be depending just on you for their salvation. Maybe when God created you, he said, your main job is to bring your Ruth with you to heaven. That's why you're here. So those people that need your love, the love of Christ, bring it to them. Give it to them. And don't let them down. I was driving back with Francis to the rectory. I was quiet. I wasn't saying anything, mostly because I was scared. But I was thinking about what had happened. And a question came to my mind. So I asked Francis, I said, Francis, what would you have done if Ruth never talked? He said, oh, Father, that's easy. He said, if you love somebody and they don't respond to your love, he said, increase the dosage. And I have no doubt, none whatsoever, that if Francis were still alive today, and if Ruth were too, and had not talked, he would still be pulling up the rocking chair next to hers, and rocking, and praying, and loving her even more today than he did yesterday. Please stand.